Today, we are talking about players that you should try and add to your Dynasty teams. We are doing the NFC teams. We have 16 players, one from each NFC team. Check out the AFC video. It's already out there. As always, like and subscribe for Dynasty content. It is April 7th. We're about less than 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. And these are players at this current time where we stand that I think are a little undervalued. It's a combination of players that potentially are out there on your waiver wire that you can stash, or players that you can buy low on either as a throw-in or a low round draft pick or whatever to stash and put on your team. So we're going to jump right into it. All of these rankings are up to date as I just made this today. Demarcus Robinson. We're starting in the NFC West. We're starting with the Los Angeles Rams. Demarcus Robinson. I was a little confused about this. He's wide receiver 123. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense to me at all why he's that low. Now, I know Demarcus Robinson didn't ever really do anything in his career fantasy worthy until a 5-game stretch last year for the Rams. But however, he was really, really good in that 5-game stretch. He was like wide receiver 22, I believe, from like weeks 12 to 17 or whatever it was. And he kind of took over Tutu Atwell's spot out of nowhere. And Tutu Atwell was pretty good to start the year. And Demarcus Robinson just kind of took over and they used him. I don't understand why he's wide receiver 123. I'm going to try and put in this is according to Keep Trade Cup, by the way. That's basically saying that's worth a 2026 fourth. That's insane to me. Demarcus Robinson is probably going to be the wide receiver 3 for the Rams. I don't really see the Rams taking a receiver in the first couple rounds. Now, if one drops, sure, I could see it happening if one does drop. But this is kind of a little bit of an all-in team. You know, you got Stafford and Cooper Kupp, couple older guys, especially Stafford, like who knows how much longer we have of him. I think they want to try and make one more run at it either this year or next year. So yeah, maybe they do take a receiver in the first 2 rounds if someone drops in value, someone valuable drops. But I think that's not a high priority. I feel like they feel pretty comfortable with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Higbee when he gets back. So I like the idea of grabbing Demarcus Robinson. I know he's the wide receiver 3 for the Rams, but look what he did last year. Look what Tutu Atwell was doing at the beginning of the year. Look at what in 2021. Just go back and look at the Rams 2021 season where they had Cooper Kupp was the obvious clear-cut alpha. They still had guys like Van Jefferson put up over 800 yards. Robert Woods had like 500 yards basically in half a season. He was on pace for 1,000 yards. Odell Beckham caught like 5 touchdowns there in the last 4 or 5 weeks. There was multiple third options that were doing well for the Rams when they were at their peak. So Stafford's one of those guys that he could throw for close to 5,000 yards. So there's plenty of room and ball to go around. So I'm just really confused at why he's that low. Spent a little time on that, but I'm pretty passionate that you're going to get major value if you were able to trade even a 2025 fourth for Demarcus Robinson. Next up for the Seahawks, a little bit of a tougher team to find a stash or buy low here. I chose Noah Fant. I know Noah Fant's been mostly a disappointment for most people. What was he, a first-round pick back in 2019? Hasn't really lived up to that. He's had some good seasons, 60, 70 catches, 650 yards, never elite fantasy seasons. What I like about Noah Fant is he's just extremely, extremely talented. He reminds me a little bit of David Njoku. David Njoku was also a first-round pick in 2017, and he kind of had a similar career path, arc in terms of what Fant has had. Noah Fant, his first 6 years, never had more than 650 yards, and then last year he exploded for 80 catches, 800, almost 900 yards and 6 touchdowns. And the reason being is that he's just super. There's a reason why he was a first-round pick. Both these guys, they're super talented, super athletic. We just saw a year 7 breakout for David Njoku. If a team, finally decides to feature Noah Fant a little bit, Maybe he's the third option for this Seahawks team. New coaching staff, new offensive coordinator. If they decide to feature him a little bit more, I think he could have a Njoku-like season. Is it likely? No, but is it possible? Sure, it is. So that is my stash for the Seahawks. Moving on for the Arizona Cardinals, we have Michael Wilson, a third-round pick last year that people were pretty excited about. They liked, his profile and, potentially being a little bit of a sleeper in the Dynasty rookie draft. He didn't do a whole lot last year. I think he had 2 kind of start-worthy games. Obviously, you had to start him, but he had a 2-catch, 86-yard game, a 7-catch, 76-yard game, and 2 touchdowns. 3 catches, 62 yards, 4 catches, 58 yards. He had some decent games in there. His last week 18, 6 for 95. So he had some decent games in there. He actually had over 550 yards, which maybe surprises you. Now, I know a lot of people are low on him because they expect the Cardinals to take Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 4. 2 things. One, even if they do, there's really no one else on this roster that could fill the wide receiver 2 role, in my opinion. Greg Dortch is a nice little player. He's a slot wide receiver 3 at best. Trey McBride is obviously going to take some targets, but Michael Wilson, even if they do take Marvin Harrison Jr., could be the wide receiver 2 for this team. Now, they could take multiple receivers in the first couple rounds, and then that does hurt Michael Wilson. But if they don't, if they only take Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, to me, on a pretty good offense potentially, is going to be the wide receiver 2. And there's a really good chance that the Cardinals trade out of number 4. If someone offers them a ransom for the 4th pick because they want to move up and grab J.J. McCarthy or Drake May or Jaden Daniels, there's a chance that the Cardinals don't take a receiver in the first round. Obviously, they wouldn't be getting Marvin Harrison Jr. if they trade back. And maybe they grab a second-round receiver or something. But, that's it. Less likely to take over as the number 1. Then it kind of becomes like, all right, who's the number 1 receiver here? So either scenario, I like Michael Wilson as a potential, buy-in, throw-in guy who I think he has some talent and he has a role for this potentially really good offense for the Cardinals if they do get a stud receiver. Moving on, 49ers, another tough team here. I have Ronnie Bell for the 49ers. Ronnie Bell was, I believe, like a 7th-round pick out of Michigan last year. Didn't really do much. Again, he only had 6 catches last year. 49ers are a tough team to find. Maybe like a Cameron Latu you can throw in there if you think Kittle's getting old. But one of the running backs maybe. But I wanted to highlight Ronnie Bell a little bit. He's kind of the de facto wide receiver 4 for this team. There's still rumors swirling about Brandon Ayuk and, what his contract situation, will they trade him? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they trade him, during the draft or something like that. If someone like the Bills offer, a first-round pick for Brandon Ayuk, I think the 49ers take it. Is it likely that Ronnie Bell is the wide receiver 3 for this team? No. Is there a chance? Yes. And to me, he kind of profiles as kind of filling a little bit of what Brandon Ayuk does, that field stretcher down the field guy. His college numbers, he played at Michigan, never had huge numbers because Michigan runs the ball a lot, but he averaged over 15 yards per attempt in his Michigan career, or 15 yards per catch. So he's a little bit more of a field stretcher, in my opinion, and that kind of fills a little bit of the Brandon Ayuk role. So maybe take a flyer on him, hold him through the draft and see what happens with Ayuk. And then if nothing happens or they draft a receiver, then you can just cut him. Next up, I have Sam Darnold for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's listed as QB 36, which is kind of crazy to me. I understand it to a certain extent because I think everyone expects the Vikings to trade up and grab a quarterback or draft a quarterback at 11, Bo Nix or something. There's a chance that just doesn't happen, right? Someone else trades up to the number 4. The quarterback they want, like a J.J. McCarthy or something, gets drafted number 2 or 3 overall. Like there's a scenario, there's a world where the Vikings don't get a quarterback with the in the top 10 or the 11th overall pick. Maybe they get one at 23 with Michael Penix or Bo Nix if he falls. But there's a world where they leave the first round and they don't have a quarterback drafted, right? And Sam Darnold is their quarterback, and his value is going to skyrocket. If the Vikings don't draft a quarterback in the first round this year, Sam Darnold's value in a superflex league is going to skyrocket because he's going to be slated and have the best chance to be the top, the QB1 for the Vikings. Now, I still think Sam Darnold has some talent, some arm talent, and if he gets into the right system, which I think the Vikings could be the right system, I think he could be pretty good. There was 18 weeks last year, obviously. 18 weeks last year. There was only 6 weeks where the Vikings did not have one of their quarterbacks did not finish top 12 in fantasy for that week. 6, so 12 of 18 weeks, a Vikings quarterback finished in the top 12, and that's 3 different guys: Kirk Cousins, Josh Dobbs, and Nick Mullins. This team is going to produce top 12 quarterback finishes no matter who the quarterback is, and that could be Sam Darnold. So I think the fact that he's basically a QB3 at this point is a little crazy to me. So I would go out and see if I can acquire him. Even if they do draft a guy like Bo Nix, maybe they roll with Darnold to start the season. Next up, we have another quarterback for the Lions. That is Hendon Hooker. This one is just simple. Like, I think he's the QB2 for the Lions in 2024. And I liked his profile coming out of college. I see some potential there. If he does, it's going to take a Jared Goff injury, but if Goff does get injured and Hendon Hooker comes in, I think he can put up some fantasy numbers with not only being on the Lions and then the offense, throwing the ball to Laporta, Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But he can also move and run. So, that's obviously fantasy gold. So this is just literally like most QB2s should be rostered, in my opinion. Hendon Hooker in my opinion, has the best chance to be the QB2 for the Lions, and he's potentially out there on a waiver wire. So pick him up. Roschon Johnson coming in next for the Bears, RB46. I think Khalil Herbert can be thrown on this list as well. Obviously, they brought in DeAndre Swift, and people are excited about Swift. Let's not forget that Swift, obviously last year he stayed healthy, but he had problems staying healthy his previous 3 seasons. He's a running back, so obviously that plays into it a little bit as well. Like running backs just get beat up a lot. Roschon Johnson, to me, is the RB2 because he provides a little bit more. I think Swift and Roschon combined make Khalil Herbert a little redundant. I don't think Khalil Herbert does anything that spectacularly well. And the other guys do everything better than him in terms of running the ball, pass blocking, pass catching. And I think Roschon adds a little bit something. He has the size that teams like. I think he's a pretty good pass catcher. He's a really good pass blocker. So I think he's the RB2 for this team. And, RB2s are extremely, extremely valuable. So I would snatch him up or buy low on him if I still a young running back that I really liked coming out of college. So maybe I'm a little biased here. Khalil Herbert also, like with the possibility that he just gets traded to a team and he goes into a better scenario where he's like the 1B or something. I'd throw him on here too. Dontayvion Wicks for the Green Bay Packers. I looked at who's the lowest ranked Green Bay Packer receiver out of Watson, Reed, Dobbs, and Dontayvion Wicks, and kind of to no surprise, Dontayvion Wicks is the lowest rated. I don't think it's crazy to think there's a few people out there that think like he's the best route runner on this team, and it's not crazy to think that he could be the best receiver for this team. So I'm just basically taking, all right, I want a piece of the Packers offense. Jordan Love, promising first year as a starter. This is an up-and-coming offense. I want a piece of it. I'm going to go out and get the cheapest one. That's Dontayvion Wicks at this moment. So I don't think it's crazy to think that he's better than Romeo Dobbs or Jamin Reed or even a Christian Watson. Do I think it's likely? No. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Some people love his route running ability, think he is the best route runner on this team. And to me, that always translates as the route running ability. So, Dan Dontayvion Wicks is the cheapest way to get the piece of the Packers offense. Moving into the NFC East, we have Jahan Dotson coming in at wide receiver 52. Now, Jahan Dotson, I think a lot of people forget this, was like the 16th overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft. 16th overall. It was weird because, like, out of all the first-round receivers that went that year, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, Treylon Burks, even the early second-round guys in like Sky Moore and Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson was like ranked below all those guys. He wasn't being valued as a first-round receiver, so he was already like lower than he should have been. Then he flashed his rookie year. People were really excited about him after his rookie year. Like, okay, he showed potential. He showed ability to score touchdowns like he did in college. And then he just sucked last year, even though Sam Howell was leading the league in passing yards 10 weeks into the season. He just basically sucked. 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, 49 catches, and he played every game. I think there's a possibility he bounces back. The hype we had for him going into the 2023 season comes back a little bit. You look at this depth chart, Jamison Crowder is currently the wide receiver 3 for this team. They're going to take a quarterback at number 2 overall. I don't know if that's Jaden Daniels or Drake May. If it's Drake May, I'm really excited for Jahan Dotson because I think they're going to throw the ball a little bit more. He's a little bit better of a consistent passer than Jaden Daniels. Now, they could draft someone in the second round. They have 2 early second-round picks, 36th and 40th overall in a stacked wide receiver class. They could go that direction. Dan Quinn is the head coach, defensive guy. He probably wants to beef up that defense. Offensive line is always, it's a deep tackle draft. It's hard to speculate what they're going to do, but if the draft is over and Jahan Dotson is still the wide receiver 2 for this team, I'm excited about it, especially if they get Drake May. So I think it's going to, do really well. Just look at the CJ Stroud effect on Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and even guys like Noah Brown, right? Like those guys were nothing in Dynasty. No one was expecting anything from Nico. Tank Dell, rookie, 3rd round pick. We'll see. And then they get a good quarterback in there, and those guys explode and become top 15 Dynasty wide receivers, right? Same thing could happen here in the Commanders. Drake May, what if he has a Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud-like season? Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin are going to be the 2 beneficiaries of that. Actually, I think even Terry McLaurin to me is a kind of a buy low as well. So still like Jahan Dotson and the fact that he was a 16th overall pick. There's a reason for it, and he's flashed. So next up for the New York Giants, we have Drew Lock, again, most likely as the QB2 for the New York Giants. He's QB 47 according to Keep Trade Cut. It's just one of those situations. It's in a super flex league, almost every QB2 should be rostered. We've seen the last couple years now, quarterbacks just getting injured so much. All QB2s essentially need to be rostered. And to me, Drew Lock is one of the better chances of being and starting games as a backup quarterback, right? Over Daniel Jones, either because Daniel Jones is not ready, gets hurt, re-aggravates what he have, like a neck or back injury. That's some serious stuff. Or 2, Daniel Jones just sucks. And Daboll is not going to sit around and watch his team suck again because he'll be on the hot seat. That's just how it is. Even though he won Coach of the Year, if they have another bad season, he'll be on the hot seat. Now, they could draft a quarterback at 6th overall. If a McCarthy falls to them, I wouldn't be shocked. They also could draft a receiver, like a Roman Dunze or Malik Neighbors, and that would be really good. So I just think Drew Lock has a pretty good chance, as good as almost any backup quarterback out there, to start some games this year, and that's valuable in Superflex leagues. Moving along for the Eagles, Dallas Goedert, it's kind of strange to have him on this list, but he's tight end 18, and I don't really understand why he's that low. So if I can get him for tight end 18 value, I'm going to jump all over that. Just looking at the list of guys ahead of him, Jake Ferguson, Michael Mayer, Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Schultz, Luke Musgrave. All these guys are ranked ahead of Dallas Goedert, and I don't understand that. If I could trade Jake Ferguson, honestly, straight up for Goedert, I would. If I could trade Jake Ferguson and for Dallas Goedert and something, that's what Keep Trade Cut is telling me, like that I could trade Jake Ferguson. Let's see. It's saying right now, I'm going to do this live on. Well, it's not live, but on the video, it's basically saying I can get Dallas Goedert and the 308. No, fourth round pick. I can get the 401 or the 402 in Dallas Goedert for Jake Ferguson. And you might even be able to get more, right? Maybe a 20, like if someone wants to throw me a 2025 third and Dallas Goedert for Jake Ferguson, I'm selling Jake Ferguson. I don't understand why Goddard's this low. I'm not saying he should be like top 7. He's a little bit older. I understand. I think he's like 29, but tight ends, they can last a while. Dallas Goedert, even last year, was tight end 13 in points per game. Goedert was tight end 13. In 2022, in points per game, he was tight end 5. Yeah. In 2021, he looks like about tight end 8. Last 3 years, he's been basically a tight end 1 in points per game. Now, I know he's missed time. People maybe are a little bit worried about the Eagles or something. I don't really buy it. Like, I still think he's the third option for this team, and I still think that's going to provide tight end 1 value, and he's being valued as a tight end 2. So Dallas Goedert, buy low on him if you can. Tear down from a Freiermuth or a Ferguson and get Dallas Goedert and a piece, whatever the piece is. And last up for the Cowboys in the NFC East, we have Trey Lance. I've been talking about buying low on Trey Lance for a while now. He's listed as QB 39. I would almost put my life savings. No, I wouldn't go that far. I'd put a lot of money on the fact that Trey Lance is going to get a chance to start for a team for at least half a season. I can almost guarantee that. Not quite, but I'd put a lot of money on it. He literally hasn't had a chance. He started a couple games, got hurt, blah, blah, blah. I understand he's kind of a bust at this point. I'm not saying he's even going to be good as an NFL quarterback. What I'm saying is he's going to get a chance, in my opinion, to either have half to a full season. There's too many teams that need quarterbacks every year. He's going to get a chance to maybe even this year. Someone still could trade for him. Like if Minnesota doesn't land a quarterback in the draft, maybe they trade for Trey Lance. He's going to get a chance to start half a season. And he's a running quarterback, and we know you don't need to throw for very much to be good for fantasy as a running quarterback. You can throw for 150 yards a game, rush for 80 yards, and you can throw a touchdown or rush a touchdown, and you're looking at 8, 13, you're looking at 17 plus 18 plus points by throwing for 150 yards and maybe a touchdown. Trey Lance is going to get a chance. I repeat, he's going to get a chance. You can get him for the 401 in this year's draft. I would trade the 401 for any quarterback that I thought was going to get 8 games starting. Doesn't matter. In a Superflex league, if I knew this quarterback was going to, not that I know for sure, but if I thought that this quarterback's going to start for 8 games, I'll trade the 401, no problem, for those 8 games, especially from a rushing quarterback. So Trey Lance, as early as this year, I'm not ruling it out that this year he could still get a chance to, if a team doesn't, the Raiders, no, not the Raiders, but a team that still needs a quarterback and they don't land one in the draft, I don't think it's crazy to think they go out and get Trey Lance. So moving along, we got the NFC South to finish up here. Chuba Hubbard coming in at RB44. I think Chuba Hubbard, there's a really, really good chance that Chuba Hubbard is the starting running back for the Panthers. And look at what Rachaad White did for the for the Bucs last year under Dave Canales. He was like a top 5 running back. I'm not saying Chuba Hubbard's going to be a top 5 running back, but they used one running back. They threw the ball a lot to him. Now, maybe that's Baker. Maybe that's Canales. I don't know. But maybe they encourage Bryce Young to dump off more to the running back. I think there's a really good chance that Chuba Hubbard, they have no loyalty to Miles Sanders, and they have no loyalty to Chuba Hubbard, but Chuba Hubbard has looked better than Miles Sanders last year. The Panthers currently have They have 2 early second round picks and then their third round pick. So they could draft a running back for sure. This team just has a lot of holes. I think they for sure draft a receiver. They need offensive line help. I think that's where their first 2 picks go. So maybe they get a running back in the third round. Probably not. I just think, again, there's a good chance Chuba Hubbard's going to be the starting running back for the Panthers. And look at his ranking. He's not even in. He's not even as an RB3. He's listed as an RB4. Would I be shocked if Chuba Hubbard's the RB20 next year? No. If I can get him as a throw-in piece, I'm all over it. All over it. And moving along, we have Darnell Mooney for the Atlanta Falcons. I personally think if you look at the depth chart for the Falcons, Darnell Mooney is their wide receiver 3. Now, does that mean he's going to – or sorry, their wide receiver 2. Does that mean he's going to be the second most targeted player on this team? No. He might not even be the third. He could be, but he could be. And they have Kirk Cousins. I think the Falcons are probably going to go defense like the entire draft, right? You have your quarterback, you have your running back, you have your wide receiver 1, you have your tight end. You know, you have a pretty good offensive line. You have a couple good receivers in Mooney and Moore who are like probably better as wide receiver 3s, but combined can be a good second or third option for this team. I like the idea of grabbing Darnell Mooney and just like, what if Kirk Cousins throws for 4,800 yards? Like this is, again, we're coming from Zach Robinson, coming from the Rams system. They're going to want to throw the ball. They have their quarterback in place. They're going to have a really good offense. Darnell Mooney could have a nice role in this offense. He could have a 800, 900-yard season, and he becomes, in best ball, a nice play or a nice player. And then in a lineup league, he becomes like a spot starter during heavy bye weeks. Like it's rounding out your bench a little bit. I can see Darnell Mooney having a decent season, and he's wide receiver 70. You can get him for nothing, essentially. We've seen him in the past look pretty good, and he's just kind of suffered from just being on a team that's not throwing the ball, and now he is on a team that's going to throw the ball. So they went out and got him pretty early. They wanted him, and they got him. So I think he's going to be their wide receiver 2, because I think this team's going like defense heavy in the draft. 2 more for you. We got Trey Palmer from the Bucks. Bucks is kind of by default. I mean, I don't really want any of their backup running backs, even though the RB2 should be stashed. You know, the tight ends, I don't want any backup tight end. I don't want Kyle Trask. So it's kind of Trey Palmer. He's going to be the wide receiver 3 for this team most likely, unless they draft someone. He flashed last year. He looked pretty good. I don't expect too much from him without an injury from one of the receivers, but it was a kind of a weird year for the Buccaneers receivers in that neither of them got injured. I think Evans got knocked out early in one game, but neither of them got injured. So if there's an injury, I think that Trey Palmer could be decent. And then, he's a rookie last year that showed something. Can he improve? And then who knows in 2025 what he's going to be. So don't mind buying low on him. And the last player is a player I've liked since last year's draft process, A.T. Perry. A.T. Perry was a 5th-round pick. When I was scouting him and evaluating him, I talked about it on videos back in February of 2023. I was like, I like this guy. He has the tools to be a complete receiver. He's going to need a year of basically like learning and sitting and watching and developing, because he's very raw. He's had that year. He flashed a couple times last year. And now we're looking at it where, they have Rashid Shaheed. They have Cedric Wilson, obviously Olave. This team could draft someone, yeah. Rashid Shaheed has his role, in my opinion. A.T. Perry could be that second wide receiver out there on 2 wide receiver sets consistently. So I like A.T. Perry. I just think he's a solid receiver that just can continue to keep developing. So potentially you can find him out there on your waiver wires. Who knows? That's all I have for you guys there. That's the NFC version. Remember to like and subscribe. Check out the AFC version if you haven't already. And we'll continue to be putting out Dynasty content. We'll catch you guys all next time.